Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. And welcome, my friends, to PSA Hell. Today we're talking about a somewhat bizarre little PSA comic made in conjunction with Con Edison, a New York energy company. I call it somewhat bizarre because this one just seems lazy. It's only 6 pages long, which you'd think would make it ideal for comic book quickies and not a full episode, but the thing is that Con Edison and DC produced multiple PSA books, supposedly 6 in total, though I could only find covers for 5, and this one is the shortest. And it has a different name from the rest. Those are called Energy and Safety Adventures, which is probably accurate because those ones apparently involve stories, whereas this one, not so much. They're mostly trying to appeal to those who watched the DC animated universe, plus Teen Titans, which would make sense, but what also confuses me is that the PSA is also pretty much an ad for Con Edison, which only services New York, and one subsidiary company handles Pennsylvania and New Jersey, but still. So was this really necessary? The answer, as with so many of DC's decisions when they are asked that question, is yes. So let's dig into Energy and Safety with the Justice League and see no adventures. Yay!
Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a party hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
The cover is pretty bland when you realize the background is just a light blue gradient going down to white. There are a bunch of power lines in the sky, but no buildings for the power lines to connect to. Is this out in the desert? Also, despite this being Energy and Safety with the Justice League, only Superman decided to show up. Or perhaps the rest of the Justice League are standing just out of view, or inside one of the buildings equipped with a cloaking device. You'd think those people down there were all excited to see Superman, but in reality they're just surprised because he's about to fly right into those power lines and shock himself like a cartoon. Also, probably not a good sign for the promotional comic for your company that these power lines apparently need this many workers to perform maintenance on them. We open with Green Lantern Jon Stewart. Has anyone ever actually asked The Daily Show's Jon Stewart about sharing the name? No joke, I'm just really curious if anyone has ever done that before. Comics make the occasional joke about it sometimes, but I don't think he's ever mentioned the connection. I'm gonna get like 100 emails linking to a joke he made about it once now, aren't I? Hi, I'm the Green Lantern. This is Bill. Bill doesn't deserve a last name. We're here to talk about how you can do your part to protect the environment. Maybe the environment will cough up some money for our protection after we rough it up a little. As you may know, our energy supply is not limitless. We're all doomed to die horribly when we eventually run out of fuel sources. Enjoy the post-apocalyptic world that'll be created when that happens! It's a precious resource, and we have to think seriously about how we're going to use it. No, it's also a precious resource? Proper grammar. And that comma splice is endangering it. Because poor literacy is rather unusual for a PSA. Our man Bill informs us that Con Edison is working to conserve energy while helping to safeguard the environment. Yes, they are trying to conserve energy, which is why they distribute it to people. Wait, what? No, of course they mean they make them more fuel efficient, reducing emissions, and of course he and Green Lantern have some suggestions for how to be more eco-friendly. Remind the last person to leave a room to turn off the lights. Green Lantern, if that window behind you is to be believed, you're in space right now. Possibly on the moon. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's a sign you're using the JLA Watchtower, which has super science and super-powered generators. I don't think a single light bulb still on is gonna make that much of a difference when you've got friggin' force fields and crap. Save a stamp and go paperless. Get and pay your bill on the internet by using eBill. Are we still in space? Because if we are, wouldn't you have to use internet bill pay? Or is the post office that good? Use compact fluorescent bulbs. They use 75% less energy. Not only will these help the environment, they'll benefit your bank account too. Ah yes, good information for those 10-year-olds who pay the electric bill. And before you say that maybe this wasn't meant for children, we then get our next segment featuring these two kids approaching a downed power line. Wow, look at this! Come over here! Hey, let's stick our faces directly in the sparking power line!
No, stay back! Don't go near or touch a fallen power line, or any other damaged electrical equipment. Electricity powers electric guitars, the main weapon of rock and roll music. Reject it, children!
Batman instructs them to instead call the power company if they spot something like this.
This downed power line is dangerous. Very dangerous.
Gee, thanks, Batman. We had no idea the downed line was so risky. We could have been hurt. The fact that they didn't know that, an example of poor parenting or just utter stupidity. You make the call. Next, we're in a snowy city. It's absolutely freezing out here. And doubtless it is inside our apartment, too. What do you mean, doubtless? Did you turn off the heat when you left the house? That's how your pipes freeze! And yes, I know heating bills can be expensive, but I think replacing all your pipes after they burst would be more expensive! When we get in, I'll turn on the oven and open the door. That'll get the place nice and toasty in no time. Good idea! Well, I see we're going to have the long-awaited return of Vapora. Batman teleports from that sunny neighborhood into this snowy city to inform them of what morons they are.
An oven isn't designed for space heating. It can easily cause a fire, deplete oxygen levels, and cause a buildup of lethal carbon monoxide gas. And I know that sounds cool at first, but...
Thanks, Batman. We could have really caused a lot of trouble in there. Maybe I'll just go put another sweater on.
Excellent, citizen. I will return to simply standing in this alleyway in my bat thermal underwear and wait for someone else to suggest something that will get them killed. I am the Knight.
Next, it's time for the whole Justice League to get in on the action, as they just happen to be hanging out in their living room. I don't know, maybe it's still the Watchtower? Superman isn't with them since he's in the middle of opening a new recycling center. However, the power suddenly goes out. Wonder Woman says not to panic. All we need is to call the power company, and they'll get us up and running in no time. I was gonna complain about the telephone still working despite the power being out, but apparently landline telephones don't require that much power to operate, so phone companies actually have copper wiring buried under the ground that supply power to phones so they can operate when the power goes out. A fact that you should probably include in this comic, but no, let's make sure people in the year 2008 know about internet bill pay. And wait, if they're in the Watchtower, why are they using a landline phone? I mean, Martian Manhunter even suggests just going and fixing it themselves, but Wendy insists on waiting a few minutes for the power to return. Guys? Why is the power out to begin with? Did some of you not pay your bills? Is a supervillain attacking? Why isn't anyone investigating this? Oh, whatever. Superman's making his grand entrance to help open that recycling center. You see, even the JLA can't fix every problem. Except you really could fix this problem. There was nothing stopping you from doing so. Next up, we switch to a rather unexpected member of the JLA, Oracle. Okay, I don't think I've ever really gone over Oracle before on the show, and we're already on the 4th page out of 6 in this comic, so... Time for backstory! Oracle is Barbara Gordon, whom you may recall as being Batgirl. Well, in 1988, the character of Batgirl was retired. Not sure why they did it, but the decision was made. And then immediately afterwards, Alan Moore wrote The Killing Joke, a story that offers a possible backstory for the Joker, though it's left unclear. The Joker himself admitted that he remembers things differently all the time, and that if he's going to have an origin, it might as well be multiple choice. Unless the story is Hush Returns, and they just say, screw it, that's what happened. And I really need to review that crap fest, don't I? Anyway, point is that the Joker shoots Barbara Gordon, and the bullet hits her spine, paralyzing her from the waist down. However, the point of the story was not Barbara being shot, but it was about the Joker trying to drive Jim Gordon insane. It was a classic example of women in refrigerators, which I have gone over before. Pissed off over the treatment Barbara received in this regard, as her paralysis was an afterthought, one Alan Moore has admitted to being a terrible mistake, editor Kim Yale and her husband John Ostrander decided to make things right by enhancing her character through this. And thus they turned her into Oracle, the DC Universe's premier hacker and tech expert. She was pretty much a member of the JLA at this point in time too, providing them with information as they needed it. And for some stupid reason, they unparalyzed her in the New 52 with little or no explanation because iconic or some crap. But the book was actually really good, so I'll give them a pass. Sort of. Not really. But whatever, the point is that it's really weird to see Oracle here. As I said in the intro, they were mostly borrowing from the cartoons since that was the most recognizable imagery of the characters, so seeing the comic version appear like this is pretty weird. Anyway, it's time to talk about electronic billing. Again. Oracle is here with her friend Ted, who is apparently the real star here, since Oracle gets like 2 lines of dialogue on this page while Ted gets the rest. Recent studies show that if all US households paid their bills online, it would save 18.5 million trees. We're harvesting 18.5 million trees just for bills? I think the bigger issue here is that we're not using trees efficiently. That's only like 17 pieces of paper per tree. Avoid 2.2 billion tons of toxic air pollutants and 1.7 billion pounds of solid waste and save 15.8 billion gallons of precious water. So, recent studies say that, eh? Care to tell me which studies say that? It's not that I don't believe you, it's just, well, I don't believe you, because you're full of crap already on this. I can't speak for other countries, but America is not in danger of running out of trees. We actually have more trees now than we did 100 years ago. Trees are a renewable resource, and we do an exceedingly good job of replanting them. About 1.5 billion new trees are planted each year. And I can actually cite my sources, namely the damn US Forest Service. Now, you can probably make other conservation arguments concerning fragmentation, species becoming endangered due to changed forest lines, or anything else, but they're arguing about saving the trees that are not in any danger. This is what happens when you oversimplify things. I also noticed this strange material the comic is made out of. Ooh, what is it? Could it be plastic? Or maybe some kind of edible cloth? Yeah, it's paper! And rather high-quality paper at that, which is more expensive. Then again, comics have had a real problem with this paper thing. Companies have blamed unnecessarily rising prices of comics on the more expensive paper before, but most people I think would honestly be more than happy just to have newsprint again if it saved them money. But whatever. What's really important, according to Ted, is that we save a stamp too! Oracle, you have any input? Help us save the environment. Don't you run a lot of electronic equipment that drains a considerable amount of power? You know, in comic books, with as many rich people exist in them who are constantly giving money to charities and environmental programs, it's an honest-to-goodness wonder that any problems exist whatsoever. Anyway, let's go over to Superman, who's teaching us about being prepared in the event of a disaster. Don't worry, Superman. The CDC has already instructed me on what to do in the event of a zombie attack. It's actually not that different than those instructions, having a lights-out kit, battery-operated devices, surge protectors for electronics, stay indoors and away from downed power lines, and keep candles and lighters away from flammable material. Also keep them out of reach of children, and for some reason this kid and dog are standing over the X instead of underneath it. So I'm getting mixed messages. Do we want to set children on fire or not? They also bring up how Con Edison workers will sometimes be trimming trees that are in danger of falling over and breaking power lines. Qualified Con Edison contractors generally trim and/or remove trees along the right-of-way every 3 years. Oh yeah, qualified contractors, like that woman whose outfit doesn't have any sleeves, or the space cop who is interfering with one guy's trimming by doing his own trimming. Seriously though, what the hell was that guy cutting? He's not even aiming anywhere near the tree. But enough of all that pesky advice, time for a story! Sort of. Okay, more like reprocessed story byproduct that's had all the flavor squeezed out of it, and then some salt sprinkled on in the vain hope you won't notice. Superman is flying over a city when he suddenly smells a gas leak. He flies down to the building to investigate, but fortunately it's already been taken care of, and he's just detecting the aftermath. I smelled the gas, but assumed somebody else had already taken care of it. Luckily, my girlfriend was a lot more sensible than I. Well, I should probably say ex-girlfriend. She's not too happy that I ignored the potential danger to our lives. Never assume somebody else has already seen to the problem. Interfere in everything around you, even if it's none of your business. You should not strike a match or smoke. Don't use telephones, switch on or off any electrical appliances, or start a car nearby a leak. All of these can produce sparks that might cause an explosion. Superman! Guardian of truth, man of tomorrow, gas expert. The girlfriend confirms that she remembered all these safety details, and especially remembered to call for help away from the area, which she did so. Well, it looks like everything's under control now. Nice job, everyone. If you'll excuse me, I have to go lecture Lex Luthor about emissions caused by the giant robots he sometimes sends after me. And so our comic ends with the Con Edison man explaining what to do in these situations. Yes, and remember, if you smell or suspect a gas leak, call Con Edison toll-free. Whoa now, citizen! Let's not get too hasty. Their problem is over there, and over there needs to take care of itself. So, yeah, that's the end. The back cover is just an ad for Con Edison and how you should call them for more information. Why do I feel like I did 2 comic book quickies episodes in a row? This comic is... kind of sucks, I think. Yeah, we're going with it sucks. The PSA part is fine, with various small issues and safety tips. The problem is that this isn't even a story. If there are any stories, they are hidden very well, since the presence of the Justice League adds absolutely nothing to this. Could have been any random characters in this situation. You could have replaced the superheroes here with the cast of a sitcom and it would have made just as much sense. The heroes have no point in doing this except name value. The artwork is fine, but there's not really much in the way of sequential storytelling because there is no story. Some people are not very smart and others are. Also, buy Con Edison. Well, at least we got another episode that was short. Maybe I'm getting soft this year with less things to complain about. So, what's next week? Youngblood! Somehow I'm thinking that playing with downed power lines would be preferable. Why is Batman lecturing children randomly on a street about safety concerns? Isn't this the job of that superheroine Guardiana?
Almighty Isis. Shazam! Farfignugan!